Watch the flirking schnit, you guys. Dark bleatings, everybody. Now, you might already know that I review a lot of indie fiction, and most of the books I talk about on this channel will be from some sector of indie publishing. Indie publishing is a big industry at the moment, and there are like various types. So you've got self-published authors, and then you've got indie publishing. The size of the publishing company will range very dramatically in indie publishing. So you'll get presses that are run by literally one person out of their house, and then you get presses that are still considered indie presses even if they have a team and maybe they have an office space. But basically indie publishing is mostly just anything that isn't covered by traditional publishing in one of like the bigger publishing houses like Hodder and Stoughton or something like that. And I always rave about the books I really love, and what I thought might be fun, and it turned out to be infuriating actually, was I went on Goodreads, and this is the most recent up to date at the time I'm making the video on the particular books I'm going to talk about. I thought I'm going to look at some of my personal highest rated books, like things I've given 5 out of 5 stars to, and have a look at which books I absolutely love that have the lowest ratings. But then instead of that, because that was very subjective, I had, you know, Stephen King books and stuff that had like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of reviews, and I was a bit hard. I was like, oh. So what I did instead was I had a look at my top rated books that are the lowest reviewed books overall, if that makes sense. So books that I absolutely love that basically have got hardly any reviews on them, which indicates that they just don't have the readers that I think they deserve. And so what I thought I'd do is do my sort of the 10 books that have got the fewest reviews out of the books that I rated the highest. Now this is going to be a little funny. So I was going to do this in like order of highest to least amount of reviews on the books, but several of the books that I think personally are absolutely fantastic are from the Blackshuck Shadows series, and there is a theme in this. A lot of the books on this list are collections of short stories or anthologies, and I do think that indicates that more people prefer longer reads perhaps than that they don't enjoy these particular short stories. But I just really wanted to draw attention to some books that I've loved over the years that I just really think deserve more readers, and I'm going to tell you why. So let's go to the Shadows books first. They're so lovely. I collect these. I'm on a mission to get all of them by the end of next year. There are quite a lot of them now. So these are all published by Blackshuck Books, and the Shadows books, it'll be a single author collection, a little micro collection they call it, because they're real little books, and then the author will pick a theme for their collection, and then like the stories will follow their specific theme. So this is sort of a book series, but none of the books are connected. And so let's go straight in. So first, let's go into Green Fingers by Dan Coxon. Dan Coxon is fairly well known, I would say, in the bookish circuit now. He's an editor as well. This was my first Dan Coxon read. It's Green Fingers, so the theme is nature and plants and stuff, and it was just so much fun. I was really impressed with it. And there's stuff from, you know, like just like creepy plants that are creeping around, and then like deeper stories about like nature itself, and how people relate to nature and things like that. And it basically, what I really loved about it was that he's really good at setting a scene and a creepy atmosphere. And I'm not someone that's typically afraid of plants, you know, or walking through a garden and wondering, you know, worrying about what in the grass might grab me or something. But he's very good at like setting a scene. And all of these stories, despite thinking that they might be samey because of the subject he's picked or the theme, they were all completely different. Everything was a surprise. Sometimes he'd start a story and I'd think I'd be like, oh, I understand what he's going to do with that element, and then it would be a complete surprise. Like, he went in different directions. Real good at the bait and switch, Dan Coxon is, and it made me really excited to read more of his work, which I have since. And yes, I wholeheartedly rate that one. That one on Goodreads at the time of making this video only has 7 reviews. 7! That's a crime. It should be illegal. And then next on the shadows, this is Alia Whiteley's Fearsome Creatures. It only has 6 reviews. 6 reviews. And it's, yeah, Fearsome Creatures, and this one I found like really deep. Like there was so much to think about. It's really like emotionally evocative. It's about creatures, of course, and we've got some really fun stories in there that are like creature kind of monster kind of themes, but then there's some that you have to look a little bit further under the surface to like figure out what the fearsome creature actually is, like what she's talking about. And it was really fun. It was just like, I love stories that make me think about their themes a little bit deeper without being pretentious or anything. I've still got all of my notes in this one, so if you're somebody that likes creature stories but also explorations of like the human condition and how we are sometimes ourselves beastly, this is something that you would probably like as much as I did. Oh, this is one of my favorites. Like, these are all favorites, obviously, but this is one of my favorites in the whole collection and one of my favorite short story collections ever. And I'm going to mispronounce the author's name. Is it Thana? But anyway, it's called Unquiet Waters, and it only has 5 reviews on Goodreads, and that's just unacceptable, okay? It's unacceptable to me. I was bowled over with this one because, obviously, Unquiet Waters, this is a water-themed collection, and again, I'm not someone that really goes for water-themed stories, but I barely even had to look at the contents to remember what was in here. So the first story is about a woman whose brother is quite worried about her. She lives on this island and he goes to visit her, and it's been a little while since he saw her, and she is very eccentric and excited about the sea, and she's talking about all sorts of things that he's pretty sure she's having some sort of psychotic break. But this one felt really epic. Like there was just like I don't know, I can't talk about them really without spoiling them too much. And then there was a really creepy one about like reflections in mirror and water surfaces, and that one really freaked me out. Oh god, there's see, I don't want to go on about every single story, but she is a really, really, really good author, and I just think it's such a shame that more people haven't discovered this particular book, because I read more of her work since then too, and she's always got such great variety and great writing style. So yeah, that's another favourite. And you know, if you've read if you've been following the site or the YouTube channel for a while, you already know that I am a Kit Power super fan. So imagine my fury when I had a little look in research for this video to discover that his Shadows collection, Voices, only has 4 reviews. 4 reviews! That's how many hot dogs I can eat in one go. Don't know why I told you that. I probably should think about what I say before I go public. Anyway, Voices is about voices. Internal voices, external voices, influences, you might say. Some of Kit's greatest stories are in here. He's so good at short stories, I gotta say. He's especially good when he's in the first person, in my humble opinion. So let me just refresh my... Oh, yep. All Loving, All Knowing is a particular favourite of mine. That is about a guy that's, you know, plodding along with his family, and then there's an external influence on him, and the particular external influence that Kit used for this one is the kind that would anger quite a lot of people, but I found it to just delicious sting in the tail. Pulling Teeth is another one. Pulling Teeth was worthy of being in a Stephen King collection. It's a Stephen King story. I swear to God, like if someone just went, oh lol, actually that story was a Stephen King story, I would believe them. It's about a guy that's been well, it was a kid that becomes an adult in this one institution after being taken there because of a particular horrible talent. Yeah, this story is just... Kit's really good with inner monologue and characters. He's particularly strong at writing characters, their motivations, their thoughts and feelings, getting you to care about them, or at least relate to them, or understand them, and they're interesting to you. And this is just a little collection absolutely packed with it. So I absolutely love it. And then, oh god, I don't know how this made it into my video. I must have just accidentally picked up The End by Kaylee Dobbs. That's me. you know, that could always do with more reviews. I'd love it. I mean, if anybody wanted to have picked up this copy. The End by Kaylee Dobbs. Shameless self-promotion. Sorry, I'll put the book away now. I just couldn't resist doing it. It was just the golden opportunity. You'll never hear me mention it again. Sorry, it was buried under books. The last Shadows book is Suffer Little Children by Penny Jones, and I loved it, and this only has 11 reviews, and I just can't abide it. Guys, please. Now, Penny Jones, after reading this, I've met Penny in real life, and she is a very, very lovely lady. I have to say, she's real fun. She got me a pot of tea at like 11 p.m. after having some drinks, so a classy move, I will say. But after reading this, I described her in a review as a straight up savage, and I always refer to her as Penny Straight Up Savage Jones now, because except for Little Children, the theme. Now, if you're someone who enjoys darker themes to your horror, you might enjoy this. She's not a sadist, I have to say. This is not an extreme horror book. This isn't something like Playground, you know, or Baby in a Blender or anything like that. But these are very disturbing stories that are themed around children, not like that. So if you have trigger warnings, like, don't worry too much, okay? But she's just a very good weaver of horrible tales. And normally I veer away from things that depict evil kids or kids suffering or anything, but I'm obsessed with this because she kind of changed my mind about the subject matter because the stories were so good. So that is the final Shadows book. Oh god, I don't know how that got there again. So now we're moving away from the Shadows books. We're going to go on to some other things now. So let's go on to, this is absolutely criminal, by the way. So The Corpse Road by Sean Hogan. This only has 7 reviews on Goodreads at the time I'm making this video, and this was in my top 10 reads of the year last year. I cannot believe how little reach this book has had. It's like, the reason that I'm going on about the number of reviews these books have got is because the number of reviews, like, most people that read books don't write reviews, so the number of reviews isn't going to reflect the actual number of readers, but the scale of the reviews is an indication of how far the book has gone and like how large a group of people might have actually got the opportunity to read it and things. And I just can't believe that more people haven't got to read this. It's so, like, Sean Hogan is a really talented writer, and this story is about Ruth and, let me just, what's the other sister's name? 2 sisters, Ruth and Annie, and the chapters alternate between Ruth and Annie's perspectives. They have got a difficult relationship. They're very, very different people, and they were linked together before, where they were both in relationships, and they have like a family cabin that they would go to together. And then when the 4 of them are there one night, something absolutely tragic happens, and so Annie and Ruth are left dealing with the fallout of this, and it changes their relationship, and it illuminates other things about their relationship. And they're planning to meet back up, and then there's some supernatural, scary, creepy as shit supernatural stuff weaving its way in here. But really, this is a story, a horror story about 2 sisters, and I didn't know whose perspective to believe. They're both unreliable because they're both emotional about their relationship with each other, and we all know that makes for an unreliable telling of a version of something. So it was just really fascinating, because I'd read Annie's chapter and think, oh my god, Ruth is such a dick, and then I'd read Ruth's chapter and think, oh my god, Annie's such a dick. And it was, but like in an intro, I was like absolutely fascinated with both characters, and I was so excited to get to the end and hopefully know like whose version of events was more accurate, and I did not feel disappointed. The ending is unreal. I did not see it coming. It was just such a great book. I really, really, really love it, and I wish that more people had read it, if only so that I'd have more people to talk about it with. But that is Sean Hogan's The Corpse Road. Is really, like, it's well worth your time. All right. Next, now this is what I talked about to death, and I just assumed that it had loads of readers because I loved it so much. I assumed it had gone far and wide, but it has 20 reviews on Goodreads at the moment. It's Mantis by Erica Summers. I don't want to talk about this one too much right now because I have talked about Mantis in so many videos and written reviews. I've interviewed Erica Summers. I love her. I love her work. Mantis is about a woman who, so it starts with she's taken a girl back to her place, they're having some fun, and then the girl is very alarmed by a demon that's just appeared in the bathroom, and Mantis, our main character, just responds to this like, oh man, a demon? And she just slays it like real casual like, and it was just really, really funny. And then like this other girl is absolutely freaked out, and naturally Mantis is like, eh. And then because the demon, it was there, she knows that demons are back, so there's this whole backstory that we get told about, and she has to reassemble a team of demon fighting badasses, most of which are exotic dancers that she knows. And honestly, the characters were so, they were so good, they were so real and relatable. The story is really fun. We're talking about like a biblical apocalypse here, so that's, I love the apocalypse, and this is like they're trying to figure things out before the apocalypse actually kicks off, which is a viewpoint on apocalyptic stories that I don't often get, because normally we're in post-apocalypse, the zombies have already arrived, or the world has already changed and now we're living in it. I very rarely get to read like the apocalypse as it's happened, and I don't know if I've ever read one where we're trying to just stop it. It hasn't quite started yet, but there's loads of metaphor, loads of symbolism. There are loads of little Easter eggy things, like details in the writing, where if you pick up on it, it's like, it's really, really clever how she's told the story. But again, just wonderful characters, very high stakes, there's really serious stuff going on, but like it's really funny as well. So I just absolutely adore Mantis, and I just recommend it to everybody. Next, let's have a look at, with 21 reviews, Elemental Forces, edited by Mark Morris. This was unreal. This is a 5 out of 5 for me, and I am really I'm very stingy giving out 5 out of 5 ratings these days, and I'm even stingier when it comes to anthologies and short story collections, because for something to be a 5 out of 5 for me, I have to like everything in the book, and usually there's a few misses for me in an anthology. But when I went back and looked at this again, I was like, this is just like, every story in here offers something different. So we've got, I'll quickly go through the list of authors. Poppy Z. Bright, unbelievable. Andy Davidson, Aaron Dries, Paul Finch, Christina Henry, Laurel Hightower, Verity Holloway, Jim Horlock, Gwendolyn Keist, Annie Knox, Sarah Langan. I love Sarah Langan. Tim Leben, love Tim Leben. Will McLean, Tim Major, Luigi Mussolino, Kurt Newton, Nicholas Royal, David J. Shaw, Paul Tremblay, and PC Verum. And Sarah Langan's story, I Miss You Too Much, was my favourite overall story of last year altogether. It's one of the scariest stories I've ever read. That in itself would have boosted this through the ceiling for me, just her story alone, but everything in here is so good. So yeah, I can't believe that this has not been more widespread. Anthologies are kind of hard to get traction on, I've noticed. Like, I think that they're probably, I think that people read novels, then possibly short story collections and novellas at about the same rate, and then anthologies are like below that. Like, I don't know why people people prefer single author collections. I think I love anthologies because I always discover writers that I didn't know about, like Sarah Langan I'd never read before, and now I'm obsessed with her. But yeah, that's really worth your time if you just enjoy general horror fiction. There's something in there for everybody, and the stories are very high caliber. All right, I'm going to talk about Phil Sloman's No Happily Ever After next. I cannot believe this only has 23 reviews, so the most reviewed book on this list, but still, that's not enough. It has a story that has stayed embedded in my brain since I read it, because it gave me the same scary feeling and atmosphere that Salem's Lot gave me, which has never happened before. And Phil Sloman is just a really good writer, and really good at crafting stories that, like, where you think you know what's happening, but then when you find out what's happening, it's like in line with what he was telling you, but you still didn't see it coming. And it was nominated and shortlisted for a British Fantasy Award last year. It's a fantastic short story collection, and like a variety of horror. No Happily Ever After should give you an indication about the general tone of it, which I really like. I kind of did that with, I don't know if I've mentioned The End by Kaylee Dobbs, that's me, but I also went for that kind of nihilist. So yeah, outrageously underread, as is everything on the list. Again, I'm going to try to restrain myself, not go on about it too much, because again, I talked about this book and this author year before last, I think, or last year, The Women in the Woods by S.Q. McGrath. This, oh, I read this in an insane month. It must have been the year before last. I was stressed about all my review requests, and I read 63 books in 1 month. And I know, if you don't believe me, I don't blame you. It's an insane number of books. I did read and review all of those books in full, though I wrote a review for every single one. I talked about them all on this channel as I was going along. And The Women in the Woods was the first S.Q. McGrath book I ever read. It was a review request that I had pending for ages, and considering, you can imagine the frenzy. I wasn't sleeping. I was drinking coffee all day every day, napping for like 2 or 3 hours, and then getting back up to read, to fit all of those books in around working and everything. You should have seen the state of my house. Oh my god. But this was a book that made me stop and slow down to like absorb every delicious word. It's about we've got dual timelines, but it's the same character, so we're past and present with one character. And in the present, she's lost in the woods with her son, and they come across what can only be described as like a commune of people who seem very nice, but you know, it's a horror story and they're a bunch of people that live in the woods, so of course there's going to be something wrong there. And then we're dipping into her past, where she was a teacher and a student got sort of overly interested in her, and she had a really scary experience. And I was so, the way that S.Q. McGrath takes things from different times and then blends them together, by the end she's an expert at it. Like, I didn't know why we were being told about this backstory. It was interesting, I loved those chapters, but I was like, I wonder how this ties into the present, because I don't see how or why this is going to tie into the present. But then when it got there, I was like, holy shit, S.Q. McGrath is a genius. And not just that the writing was really interesting and that I was fully invested in these characters, but the commune is creepy, the descriptions of everything. She's like restrained in terms of stuff like gore and things like that. She was really restrained because she built everything up with atmosphere and like the location and the people and everything. But then when she got into those physical scenes of horror, they were so creative and so visceral. I was just like, oh, chef's kiss, standing applause. I loved it. Like, so I don't know if you can tell, but I really loved this book. And she sent me the ebook, and then after reading this, I bought 7 of her books in paperbacks because I wanted to have them. I wanted to support her. I wanted to read more of her stuff without her having to send it to me for free. I'm obsessed. So I think that a lot of books just don't reach an audience because people in indie publishing typically we don't have marketing budgets. We can't pay for ads and things like that. You know, it's hard to get the reach that like traditional publishing has, and that's why I've made this video, because these are some books that I really love, that I was surprised to see have such small audiences and readerships. And I'm really hoping that this inspires you to pick any of these up. If you've read any of these and you agree with me, please let me know, because I can never have too many conversations about these particular books. Also, if any of these have piqued your interest, let me know, because I might have spare copies of some of them that I could send you for free. So let me know what you think. I hope that this was an interesting video. I wasn't sure how this topic would land, but yeah, this is just me ranting as usual about books that I absolutely love, and trying to support indie authors as best that I can as well, with books that I truly believe deserve bigger audiences. On a separate note, I'm really bad at self-promotion, so I feel like really awkward about mentioning it, but it's available from Amazon and blackshuckbooks.com, and I'll link it in the description. Okay, thanks, bye, please.